Hi everyone, this is Christina Barr and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. And there's a lot of developing news right now at this moment. There's been two explosions in Afghanistan, and apparently Taliban's doing our security. They don't know whether or not they allowed the explosion to happen. Why are we having the Taliban do our security? I don't know. But there's a lot of developing news happening right now. There have been troops that have been confirmed fatalities. But a lot of people are injured. And a lot of people are dead because of this. And elections have consequences. Couldn't imagine these sort of consequences. At least, and especially not at this rapid pace. There's people who are pretty rational, not jump the gun kind of people on the right that are like, we need to talk about 25th Amendment or impeachment or something, because what has happened in the past week or so is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. This isn't how America acts, how it's not supposed to act this way. And there are consequences when America doesn't show strength. And I'm going to dive a little bit into that. I also want to talk about Larry Elder and his running for governor in the recall. And man, these Democrats, they are really trying, but they are swinging and they are missing, and they really don't have much on this guy, which is incredible because he's had a radio show for years, written so many different articles and so on, and they're pulling things out of context to try to bring him down. And there was one TikTok I saw earlier. I'm going to just kind of go through it and debunk it and stuff. But they really don't have much on him. If maybe you guys saw last week that there's an article that said he was like white supremacy and blackface, and obviously that's a ridiculous headline. I had shared the headline. I had retweeted it, and I also put it on my Facebook page. But yeah, it's a real headline. Absolutely real headline. It's crazy how scared they are of this man. He is probably going to be the governor. They are really worried in California. The numbers, I guess, aren't looking good. You can tell by the media's reaction to it. And also, reportedly they're having a lot of trouble with Hispanics, and obviously that is a big chunk of their population. And they don't know what's up, but they can't get them to act right. I guess the Democrats are like, oh no, we're losing our minorities, but it's not working. People are fed up with Gavin Newsom, as they should be. So it's very likely that if Gavin Newsom is recalled, then Larry Elder will be the governor, and that would be fantastic. And there's this really big TikToker trying to say it wasn't Democratic because the person who's going to end up winning could get less votes or not have the majority, or could get less votes than what Gavin Newsom got when he originally won, or something crazy like that. And I'm like, that's not what makes something democratic. People just have to come together and vote. Like, that's what makes it democratic. But I'm just like, what would happen if this man got like 50% of the vote? Would people, because it just has to be a plurality, it doesn't have to be a majority. But what would happen if he did get like 51%? Would people shut up and be like, he's a legitimate elected person? He will be anyway, when he wins, or if he wins. But they have all kinds of excuses, and I want to break them down and go through it. And I also want to talk about, especially I guess if I have time, something really silly that Kevin Smith said over the weekend. Kevin Smith is he was like a nerd writing gods of people, but people have kind of seen more of his true colors and his kind of corporate face, especially after he misled some people on the new He-Man show that came out. But he's just, I don't know, veering quite left. So he said something really silly about masks, so I just wanted to poke fun at him a bit. But there's just a lot of news going on right now, and so much is developing. I'm going to touch on Afghanistan, but as far as these explosion stuff going on, it's breaking. There's tweets after headlines coming out about updates of how many people are injured, and we'll just have to dive into more tomorrow, as we know, kind of more solid information. But man, I last week I had a friend of mine who's on TikTok, Jen Rader, on, and she was in Afghanistan, and she posted a video just with some headlines, and she said, I'm okay, but I'm not okay. And she said she can't, like, she probably won't be posting a lot of things about headlines, because she usually does like headlines and coffees, like morning headlines and stuff. And she just can't deal with the news right now because it's opening up a lot of old wounds. I hate that so many of our troops feel so upset, so like everything they've done was worthless over the past 2 decades. And I don't feel like it was worthless or useless. And they know deep inside that it's not, but I hate that our commander in chief did something to make them feel this way. I'm going to play a video that I saw from John James, who was the candidate for Senate twice in Michigan. But he's a veteran, and he posted something that I think is important to share. But before we jump into it, first of all, thank you all for watching today. Please make sure that you like, that you share, that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that you like my Facebook page, that you invite other people to watch it. Thank you all yesterday who read my article and watched my show about my undercover op, I guess, going to the Democrat picnic. Make sure that you guys share articles that I've written on my website. Please go to blacktnews.com and share those things around. I'd like to thank Brighter Michigan PAC for being a sponsor today. As always, if I say something that triggers you, they don't care, I don't care. It doesn't work like that. I'm just using the space. They're not my boss, but I thank them for the space, for the opportunity to be in here. And please go to blacktnews.com and check out the different merchandise that I have on my website. I'm just going to click through a couple things because I got a lot that I kind of want to talk about today. So I don't want to spend all day going through the merchandise, but just be good and just go get it. Just go get it. Like, I wore this yesterday on air, my goat hoodie. Got it in different colors. Got it in pink, got it in dark red, got it in blue, got it in black. Got it, t-shirts also as well, because it is obviously warm outside. Well, depending on where you're watching this around the world, but it's pretty warm here. But it's still very comfortable. Go pick one up. Man, I wish Trump was still president. Maybe that will be my next shirt. Be better, not better. You are not that special. Got stuff with black tea on it. Got the you are not that special on mugs and stuff. So go ahead, check out the store, and please consider supporting Black Tea News. If you really liked the show yesterday, the articles I put out, that is willing to go there and do the picnic thing and mingle and report back to you guys and do shows like this, please consider supporting blacktnews.com. You can do that on the website, or you can also do it via PayPal or Cash App with the scrolling instructions right there at the bottom. Thank you guys for all tuning in. Someone said, Biden-Harris team is an embarrassment. You are not wrong. Great to see you. Very hopeful that Larry Elder will win. I'm hopeful as well. But we will dive into it. First things first, I want to talk about COVID a little bit. I don't have a meme today. I'm going to go show you guys a TikTok that I saw. And it's very short. It's The Office, the show The Office, is very memeable. People take quotes and stuff and make memes with them all the time. And someone did one with with the vaccine and the mandates, just how people feel when they take them. And I feel it's so on the nose. So I thought I would share it with you.
I saved a life. My own. Am I a hero? I really can't say, but yes.
And that's it. That's how people feel. There's this one really big account. He has like 2 million followers on TikTok, and he was saying that my body, my choice can only be used for abortion and not for the vaccine, because the vaccine, you can kill people, and like you could, like, that's not the purpose of abortion. Like, so I had to debunk it. It was so, and he's like, I don't usually talk politics. I'm like, do you usually not think either? Like, what kind of opinion is this? Like, the vaccine, you can still catch it, you can still spread it, but you're not going to have a severe side effects. So hopefully when you take the jab, you won't have too many bad side effects, which a lot of people have had really bad symptoms when they've taken it. And hopefully nothing else severe happens, because there's some people who have died from the vaccine. It's just a flat out truth. But that whole you got to take it so I can be safe thing, that not really a thing, because since we're still spreading it to each other. So a lot of it is just, I don't know, you trying to enforce things on other people for whatever reason that makes you feel superior with your high. Like your sense of control, that you need that. Um, and then you're talking about, even if you do catch COVID, you're likely to spread it because it's very spreadable. That's why it's so dangerous. Like the mortality rate isn't that high for it, that it's just killing people because it's so dangerous. But for elderly people, for people with certain comorbidities, because it spreads so far, that's what's really so dangerous about this. So it is likely that you're going to spread it. But if you catch it, you are most likely not going to die. So you're comparing COVID, where it's most likely you're going to spread it, but it's a hypothetical death that would still be accidental, versus like with abortion, which is basically premeditated murder. And I know people get offended. They're like, oh, it's legal. It's still terrible. By the way, I got to see a sonogram for the first time a couple weeks ago. No, it's not for me. But I was with a family member. We'll just leave it at that. And I got to see a 14-week-old baby just playing in its mother's womb, just like going to town. And I didn't know that they would move like that and have that much fun, just kind of exploring the space, exploring their body. And I was filled with so much love, just like watching that little, image on the screen. And also just filled with the new purpose of, man, abortion is evil. And I know people feel different ways about it, even on the right, but I gotta say what I gotta say. I think it's tremendously evil. So, my body, my choice. I know people say that with abortion, but it's always dumb, because there's obviously another body involved. There's always 3 people, at the very least, involved with a pregnancy, and one of them is inside of the woman. So, it's not just my body, my choice. There's someone else involved, but I guess you have to ignore it to make it a little bit more palpable. So anyway, I don't want to spend all day talking about that. I do want to play this clip of John James talking about just the situation in Afghanistan. There's been a lot of people involved in the military, or who were involved in the military, who are trying to volunteer and help people get out one way or another. And he's been trying to do that in contact with friends and so on. So I'm just going to play his story and give a couple thoughts and then move on.
So as you can probably understand, it's been a crazy few days for a lot of us. I have a number of former classmates and friends who are still have connections, and we are calling around to each other to see who can possibly help whom. Just in the past 5 minutes, I got a call from a very close friend of mine who told me that he has a connection with an empty plane, and there are 127 Christians right outside of a gate, and they just need someone to open the gate. I was asked if I know anybody on the ground who can get that clearance to open the gate to let these Christians on the plane so they can evacuate. I made a number of calls, and among the calls was from someone who'd been working for the past 7 days very, very diligently to get teachers, to get women, to get Christians out of Afghanistan, to get interpreters and American citizens out of Afghanistan. And she said plainly that she's met roadblocks for people in the administration. Who I called someone else who told me that his contact, a military person who had been on the ground before, is now in Qatar. And the only advice she said was AMCITS, American citizens only. Tell the people who you're working with to get far away as soon as possible. Because as soon as the deadline hits and/or American citizens are out, the Taliban is likely to slaughter everyone at the gate. I don't have words. God help us.
So, obviously the situation is terrible. I just saw a number that 12 servicemen have been killed in the explosions. There's multiple ones, and I don't know if that numbers will be higher by the time we get done. Hopefully not, but it's an awful situation. And when America isn't strong, that just invites evil to prevail in the world. And there's a lot of people, even in this country, who feel that America is part of that evil, and get out more, I guess, would be my response. If you have such a naive response like that. But when I was in the 10th grade, my family went on a missionary trip to the Philippines. And so there was a State Department warning saying you probably shouldn't go. And so we did stuff that was like paid for, took, shots and so on, and we were like prepared to go. We were prepared to go for the ministry. So my dad was like, I was the youngest among who was going. And it was me and my 3 older siblings and my dad. And so he just called us in kind of like together, and one by one he like had us read, the State Department report. And everyone's like, I prayed about it. I feel that we should still go. Next sibling, I prayed about it. I still feel we should go. Next sibling, I prayed about it. I feel like we should still go. It got to me, and in my mind, I'm praying about it, and I'm still feeling like we should still go. I'm also a massive anime freak at this time, and I know there's a layover in Japan, so I'm not gonna lie, that really did sway my decision. And I'm also thinking, my dad, my brother, they'll protect me. I also believe that the Lord, will protect me. But, the most important thing I believe is the protection of the Lord. But one of the most probably, I guess, relevant thing is that at this time, George W. Bush was still president. And say what you will, he was known as the cowboy, I suppose. And I just had full confidence that if something were to pop off, that America would be right there. America would be right there to make sure that we would get out, to make sure that we would be protected. So we went ahead and decided to go. And at the time when they had these warnings, there was like a bus of some women that were kidnapped, and there was like a bombing and stuff, like all within like, I don't know, maybe not even a year's time. It was I wrote about it in the timeline in my Slay Your Fear book. But there was danger. There was present danger there. So we decided to go. And so we had a great time. We ministered to a lot of people. We ministered to a lot of ministers. They had never seen a family work together in ministry the way that we had. And actually, I had a miserable time, actually, personally. I got a really bad cold. Like, how do you catch a cold in the equator? I fell asleep under the air conditioning. I woke up and it was terrible. It was a time for other issues, if you can catch my drift. And I am not big on my palate, like with diverse food. And I just wasn't eating a lot. Thank God we found that McDonald's. So I wasn't eating a lot. It was very hot. I don't like hot weather. And so there's just a lot of things that was making it kind of personally miserable for me. But when we got back, we got all these praise reports, and people were like, because we saw your family working together in ministry, we decided to work together in ministries and stuff too. And so that blessed my heart. That blessed my soul so much. And we got to sing on TV, went to like the mayor's mansion and stuff, and which was cool. We were the first group, we were the first Christian group to sing amongst this big festival that they had, and they had like 8,000 people there because they would block off like the streets and have this big festival. And we were the first Christian group they ever allowed to sing and stuff. So I got to sing in front of 8,000 people. I had a cold, so I wasn't at my best, but I tried. And we just got to do a lot of really amazing things. So there was just one person who would pop up from time to time, like ask questions like, oh, welcome, to here, and where are you guys going? What time you think you'll be back? So eventually my dad, he knew a lot about like American culture, which a lot of people do, I guess, period. But he was asking a lot of questions. And so eventually he let us know that he was sent by the American embassy as a civilian spy to make sure that nothing happened to us. And then he showed us, he had a satellite phone with him in his backpack to let them know at the embassy in case we were in danger, if we weren't where we were supposed to be at whatever time that we said we were supposed to be back home at the hotel or whatever. So I was correct where the American the USA was looking out for us as we took that risk to try to minister to people, you know, over in the Philippines. And so I felt vindicated in that belief of the American superpower, that if something happened, they would be there. Now, I gotta say, after we went from Bush to Obama and just them not being on it as far as other people who are in tough situations overseas, that confidence died a bit. And when Trump came back, I felt a little bit more like, oh yeah, they would totally, you know, go in to help somebody. The Obama administration and past and media and stuff, some people found it distasteful that Trump be like, we got this person out, and bring them all to the White House. And they found his bragging about it a bit distasteful. I think sometimes you have to do symbolic things like that to project strength and to project confidence. If you are in a situation, we will bring you home. We will do what we have to bring you home. So the idea that they kept shifting the stories, and eventually you guys heard me say the other day, I think they keep saying we'll get out everyone who wants to come home, and that's just going to mean if they don't get there, like to the airport, then that they're going to just classify it as, well, they didn't want to get out. Which I've heard some disturbing sound bites from Biden officials that basically are making that case. So this isn't what America's supposed to be about. When I think about our role in the world, or just our loyalty to each other. And this 110% could have been avoided. They had information that this would all go to heck once all this popped up, once they pulled out like this. Of course, it's a mistake. There's some people trying to cover for Biden, the sycophants. Some people are just dead quiet because they know it's really bad. There's some sycophants out there like they're doing the best that they can. And like, if you pull troops out and then you have to immediately put some more back in, don't you think that that was a mistake, obviously? Because your actions dictate that, hey, that was a mistake. So it's a really awful situation. Again, there are casualties at the airport. They issued something yesterday that said it's dangerous around the airport. Like, there's nowhere to go. Like, no way to get out. There's no hope. I can't imagine being in this situation overseas like that. Just desperate to get out and knowing that you're probably going to be left behind. And I know that these people are probably going to be left behind if they don't get there. And they're saying we got to get on the 31st, and the Taliban is like, you better get out on the 31st. And as of right now, they plan to do that. And they will still try to get people out, like with the assistance of the Taliban. You know these people are terrorists, right? So I wish I had something kind of more chipper to say about this situation, but it is awful. It is awful, and it matters who leads. It matters who the commander in chief is, and I don't know. Maybe people don't want to hear it, and I told you so. But were the mean tweets really that bad? Were the mean tweets really that bad? And I know it's more than mean tweets, okay? I know it's more than mean tweets. They didn't even have a foreign policy debate. Why? Because Trump had a lot of good things on foreign policy to talk about, and Biden would have looked like a darn fool. Probably would have been Trump's best debate, which the first one was like a debacle for both of them, but really bad for Trump. And the second one was better. But they didn't want to have a foreign policy debate. They thought it was more important to just talk about Black Lives Matter again and again and again, and the issues like that. When he's the commander in chief, And Biden's, they're about to leave people behind. Your vote does matter, and elections do have consequences, but I bet you didn't think it was going to be this evident this fast. So I don't know what they're going to do. But he shouldn't lead. He shouldn't have led in the first place. But people who know him gave warnings like he doesn't like the military. I don't know. He'd make a good commander-in-chief. Seems like he has issues. Those are people who knew him said that in a professional setting. But America was just conditioned to hate Trump so much that they couldn't see past orange. They couldn't see past the orange. So we are where we are right now. Gosh. So keep the families in your prayers. Those who have been injured, those who are gone. Pray for the safety of our troops. Pray for a miracle for these people to get in so they can get out. And those who can't, just pray grace and mercy for them, I suppose. I wish I had more cheerful news to talk about as far as that situation, but it's just honest to God a mess. Honest to God a mess. So let's move on to Larry Elder and the situation with the California election, the recall. So right now it looks like the press are acting like they are really concerned how they're going after Larry Elder. There's just so many crazy articles. Like there was one that said he's white supremacy and blackface. In one video I did maybe about a month ago, I saw a comment last night that's like, he's a racist pig, you know nothing. I'm like, well, first of all, he's black, so how can he have the institutional power to be racist? Yeah, so you can't really, if you want to play their games, you can't really call him a racist. And he's not racist, that's crazy. Just what, you don't like him? Because he points out statistics and stuff that make you uncomfortable and it makes you think about some things. And I think he's gonna, how they're acting, they're scared that he's gonna really pull it out. But they got so many people to sign those petitions. All you have to do, first question is, do you want to recall Gavin Newsom? If you vote yes, that means you're gonna get a new governor. And Larry Elder has the momentum. He's the front runner, and he's probably going to be the governor. And I think that's great. Do I agree with Larry Elder on everything? I do not. He doesn't mind, like I said, he doesn't mind being a conservative. He's very libertarian he's a libertarian, honestly. He's voted Republican for a long time. He has supported, the president, every Republican president, and said nice things about Trump. And when they were candidates, he said, I don't understand why the Republican Party doesn't get around Trump. He can self-fund. And he likes some of his other issues and stances and stuff. He said that on the Dave Rubin show before Trump was a nominee. Was one of the first people said it makes sense to go for Donald Trump. It's a not joke. So he's got his finger on the pulse of a lot of things. But they're scared to death of him. So I wanted to I saw this TikTok earlier. I did reply to it on actual TikTok, but I want to go into more depth with this response. So you guys probably know that I've complained about young people on TikTok having not great opinions. This young woman is 19, and I don't want to rag on young people too much because I really feel like I had really good opinions. Obviously, you're older, you learn more things, you have life experiences, you research more, and your knowledge should be growing. So compared to how I was at 18, 19, do I know a lot more now? Yeah, but there's just people who are just unreasonable. And so many of these arguments that they'll make is just going to be like out of context nonsense. They'll get so offended out of stuff. So I'm just going to play her video and then I'm going to just break it down like point by point. She has like 10 different points. So I'm going to play this video and we'll go from there.
If you are from California, I want you to imagine having a governor that wants to overturn Roe v. Wade, that wants minimum wage to be $0.00, has said, and I quote, women know less than men about political issues, wants to completely eliminate welfare, has voted Republican every single time since 1980 and frequently praises Donald Trump on Twitter, has made dozens of anti-LGBTQ plus remarks on Twitter, opposes California's ban on chokeholds, is against undocumented immigration, has said that climate change is alarmism and no one knows the degree to which humans are causing it, and wants to end vaccine and mask mandates statewide. The person that I am talking about is Larry Elder. He will be our governor if Gavin Newsom is recalled. So please, you should have already received your ballot. Vote no to recall Gavin Newsom by September 14th.
Okay, first things first, and I already mentioned the article that said he's white supremacy and blackface, which is so racist. It's so racist. I don't care if the person who wrote it was black. It's racist. That article is so racist. But I was talking to some people yesterday, and I said, you know what? I think they're making a really big mistake drawing so much attention to Larry Elder, because the more people, I mean, if all people see is surface level stuff that they read in the newspaper about him, then maybe they'll decide not to like him. But if they do any sort of digging and actually hear him speak on the issues, he makes a very good case. Like, some of you might like Dave Rubin, and he still calls himself a liberal. He's more like a classic liberal, but he used to work for the Young Turks, and he kind of started transition. He had a show. People said you need to have Larry Elder on. He had Larry Elder on, and he was talking about systemic racism. And he's like, "Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? What's your example?" And then he's basically the person who not basically, he red pilled Dave Rubin. So that's where his like starting launch came from Larry Elder, who just really challenged and made his case. He's a very smart man. He can make a very persuasive argument. He has been doing it for a long time. So if people keep drawing attention to him and people are really curious about who he is, I think he's going to convert a lot of people. There's a Congresswoman, Lisa McClain, when people were going so hard at her in Michigan, and like someone did a really bad attack on her, or tried to do an attack, and so it's not my district, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention, just to be honest. But then I was like, man, let me look at, and I looked at Lisa McClain, and I'm like, oh my God, she sounds great. I'm like, they probably shouldn't keep firing like that. Because they're drawing more eyes to her. So like with that situation, they're just drawing more eyes to Larry Elder. And a big mistake I think they're making is drawing attention to the fact that he's black. I think that's a mistake on their part. Am I alleging that some people will go and vote for him just because he's black? Yes! People admittedly did it for Obama. I think people would do that for Larry Elder. Is that a good reason to vote for someone? No. But do people do it? Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Yes, to God, they will. So, and you might be saying, but there's been other black candidates that people haven't supported. And for example, you could say, I played some from John James earlier. He ran for Senate twice, and he didn't end up taking, the win. Back in 2018, when he ran the first time, my sister worked, she was a manager at a store, and she had some college educated, kids who were part of like I think it's called the Divine Nine. And so they went to like a meeting, and they knew a little politics of her position and stuff a little bit. And so they decided to mention like, hey, what do you guys think about John James? And so we're talking about a room full of college educated black folks, young people. Didn't even know a black dude was on the ballot. So that might seem inconceivable to if you who are watching and me and so on, because we are in the circle of our conservative atmosphere where we hear that kind of stuff. We're kind of plugged in. You must be plugged in. You're watching a conservative like commentary show. But there's a lot of people who are not plugged in, who aren't going to see those ads and so on. So if they're like, here's this man who's oppressing me, who has all these lockdowns and mandates while he's going to the French Laundry, versus like, oh, that's nice black guy over here. Yes, I think people would pull the trigger for that. Would I do something like that? No. But there's a lot of people who would. So that's my opinion. I think they should stop drawing attention to Larry Elder so much and just try to really focus on Gavin. Spin it like he's been saving lives or something. It's not true. I mean, he hasn't done a good job at all. But they could be trying to they really need to make the case that that Gavin Newsom is worth having as a governor, not trying to scare people out of having Larry Elder. Because the difference here is you can have someone who thought that they should be opposing their will on you because you can't do anything, can't decide anything, you're irresponsible. Or you can have someone who says, I think you're adults and you should be able to make your own decisions. So I think one is more appealing than the other. One is definitely more appealing than the other, but I think they should stop trying to go so hard on Larry Elder because they are, in my opinion, I think it'll probably have the wrong sort of impact. It'll probably have the wrong impact. So let's go through that video that I played. So the first thing she mentioned was that Larry Elder wants to repeal Roe v. Wade. First of all, what can he do about that? That's like a non-issue. I mean, if it was repealed, it would go back to states' rights, whatever their laws are on the books about abortion. That's what would happen if Roe v. Wade is gone. I think that's great though. But he has said that it would go back to states' rights issue. Now, I personally, if you believe life starts at conception, everyone is entitled to the right to life, and we had some kind of, amendment or something that made that clear, I think it should not be a thing. It shouldn't really be a states' right thing, just like slavery shouldn't be a states' rights thing. Like, oh my gosh, you just compared abortion to slavery. It's evil, dude. It's evil. Both are evil. I actually think abortion is more evil, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to have that conversation today. We can have it another day, and we will have it another day. But that's sort of like a non-issue. But if Roe v. Wade was repealed, it would go back to the states' rights thing, and he's made that point. He's pretty libertarian. I don't know how deeply he wants to like go into and dictate your bodies, as you would say, like that. The big one that people are really pushing is the minimum wage to zero. That was her number 2 complaint. Or he says it should be zero. Minimum wage is zero, period. Because if you cannot hire someone because you don't have the money, wages are very expensive, you're just not going to hire them, and people just won't have a job. That's how it works. So in the fear mongering with he thinks we shouldn't have a minimum wage. First of all, a federal minimum wage, if he wants that to be zero, we shouldn't have one. What does that have to do with California minimum wage? Because that's still like 7 something. But let's go back to the fear mongering. If we said that there should be no federal wage, do you think that would just mean that everyone would just get paid 2 cents or something? Or $5? I don't personally know anyone who works for minimum wage. I'm sure there's people out there, but there's people who won't take a job for $7.25, $7.50, whatever it is. There's people who won't take it. There's people who won't take $14 an hour right now at the Taco Bell near my house. And that has a lot to do with the unemployment situation that the government has so screwed up. But you can't just pay people next to nothing. They're not going to take it. It's best to let businesses rise their wages naturally to be competitive to whatever they can afford it. Because again, wages are very expensive for employers. But what you are doing is you're being very cruel to small businesses who cannot afford to necessarily pay whatever wages there will be with the minimum wage if you keep just rising it. Amazon, other companies like that, they'll be okay. They'll learn to survive. As a matter of fact, they want you to do stuff like that so they can price out their competitor and push them out of business. But really, minimum wage, and I found this out maybe earlier this year, but I think it's Evie Magazine did a really good article on it, that minimum wage was as an origin in eugenics. And people who were pro-eugenics pushed for it because they knew it would price out minorities. And that is exactly what it did when it first started being implemented. And Thomas Sowell talked about it a lot. So that I know that scares people. Minimum wage should be zero, and that people. But when you explain when minimum wage it's high, and then people just won't be able to be hired in, or you have to cut hours or whatever. Anyone with some actual like real world experience running a company or management or something, they'll understand that you can't just gift everyone money. People have to earn it, and people have to earn what is appropriate for whatever whatever they provide to the company. So then she said, he claims that women know less about politics. Women know less than men about politics. That's what she claimed that Larry Elder said. Now, I don't appreciate this young woman coming on saying this, being so offended about this, what he said, and saying it, giving no context to anything. It could, because she either looks dishonest or she looks not intelligent. And if she wants to stick up for women and prove that we do know more than men about politics, or we know just as much, she's not representing Team Woman very well. I'm out here representing Team Woman, but she's doing a darn disservice. So I got a clip from he was on the news, and he was pressed about this. So I got 2 clips for you that just explains it pretty darn well.
The one and only female up here. Allow me, Mr. Elder. Of course, you've gotten a lot of attention for that 2000 article that you wrote in Capitalism magazine, in which you said, and I think we have it up there to show you as well, women know less than men about political issues, economics, and current events. You were citing an Annenberg School study. More broadly, how do you view women? What's your view of women?
No. More narrowly, let's talk about the article that I wrote. I quoted the Annenberg study, which is a left-wing journalism department within the University of Pennsylvania, and I quoted a female professor who said that there were 25 questions that were asked of men and women. Men knew more than the women did in 15 of those questions. They knew the same in 9, and women knew less in 1 of them. And one of the reasons, according to this female professor, who's still around, liberal professor, she said the reason that women knew less is because they get the bulk of their news, from local news. And she said, and I'm quoting her, local news makes you dumber, close quote. Now, I watched a lot of local news, so I guess it makes me dumber. What I also said in that article is women knew more about so-called she issues, Social Security, healthcare, and education, and they were more concerned about those issues than men. And they were more concerned about taxes, the economy, and foreign policy. That's all I said. I'm simply citing a study that was done 21 years ago by the Annenberg School. Now, all of a sudden, that makes me anti-women. I think that's extremely unfair.
It is extremely unfair and extremely dishonest of anyone trying to push his narrative that he's anti-woman. And so then she was like, well, what do you feel about women? And so he went ahead and he answered this question. So I'm gonna play that as well.
My general overall view of women, well, their IQs are 100, men's IQs are 100, they're equally smart. More women are in college than men. 90% of the people who are in prison are men, not women. Women are less violent. I have a healthy respect for women. Many of the people in my campaign, the senior staffers of my campaign are female. My communications director is a female. My director of fundraising is a female. One of my chief strategists is a female. My mother was a female. I had her on my radio show every Friday for almost 10 years and was the most popular of my show. And by the way, my mother was a Democrat. I couldn't convince her to change her party, but I did get her to vote for George W. Bush twice. I have a healthy respect for women.
Larry, let's talk more about.
So there you have it. He fine with the women. He doesn't feel that they're dumber. He was just quoting a study, and people are trying to. So if this is all they got, this it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But I don't like the dishonesty. And this young woman tried to be, I don't know, stick up for women like and I quote, he thinks that women know less about politics. It's not women, it's just you, sweetheart. It's just you, sweetheart. And I don't know if you purposely were ignoring all context, or if that's what you just heard from some other source and you decided to repeat it, or that's what you saw in a headline and you didn't decide to research it. Because most rational people, even when I see like a dumb headline or something with Joe Biden or someone or AOC, and something sounds unbelievable, I'm like, that can't be real. Let me just Google that to see if there's some context there. To see if there's some context there. Like, what is behind that? And lo and behold, there's a rational explanation. And that's how I found that interview. I just Googled it, popped right up, because I was in the headline of what they talked about. That was one of the main things they wanted to make sure people clicked on that interview to watch. And I did. I had to like screen capture it and everything in order to play that for you. I hope you enjoyed it. But I thought it was important to point out that obviously he cares about women and thinks that women are smart and capable. And a lot of people in Republican politics do hire a lot of women. There's so many women who worked at the Michigan Republican Party, including me. And my boss was a woman. There's a lot of women in leadership. And when I worked there in the cycle where Donald Trump won, Ronna McDaniel was the chair. So we had a lot of women leading the team. And this whole like Republicans or conservative, we're not the party of women or we're anti-women. No, not at all. It's crazy. Absolutely bonkers. So her next point was he wants to eliminate welfare. I don't know why she thinks this. Maybe that is a talking point, but there's been a lot of talk, especially from people on the right, and especially people who are black who talk about the dangers of the welfare state. And a lot of people who would even talk about something like that would have something to replace it anyway. But I don't think that's a sensical thing that's really been talked about, especially not anything that I've seen him actually say with anything that in regards to what would happen with the state. But he has talked at length about what happens when you give women incentive to marry the government rather than having a man in the home. And that's just the truth. Number 5, she said consistent. He's a consistent conservative, said nice things about Trump, has voted for Republicans. Well, who else is he supposed to vote for? He's a libertarian who / conservative, whatever. Who else is he supposed to vote for? We're supposed to vote for Joe Biden. Did you vote for Joe Biden? This young woman is 19, so she was old enough to vote. Is she proud of her choice right now? Is she proud of her choice right now? Because I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be going around saying, like, I voted for Biden. Even at the event that I was on Saturday at the picnic, if someone would have said something about Biden and asked about me voting for him or talked about voting for Biden, even though I didn't want them to know I was Republican, I was going to tell them I didn't vote for him. He said all this racist stuff, said you ain't black if you don't vote for me, and the 1994 crime. I would have just had a list of things. I'm like, I didn't vote for him. How can I vote for him as a black person? And I would have just watched the color drain from their face. Like, I was prepared. Like, I was not going to pretend that I voted for Joe Biden at that event on Saturday. No way. That was a bridge too far. So, who else was Larry Elder supposed to support through the years? That's so crazy. Like, they supported conservatives, like, because they're Republican. Who are they supposed to support? Was he supposed to support Obama and Clinton and all these other? Who was he supposed to support? People support who they mostly align with. He's running as a Republican. So that's such a dumb point to even bother mentioning. And voting for Biden right now is nothing to be proud of. The next point they made is that he's anti-LGBT. And it's so funny because I went in the comments. I was reading her comments, and someone was like, I'm so scared. This is like Prop 8 again. And if you don't recall, Prop 8 was when they voted to ban gay marriage in California. Which I thought that was wild. I couldn't believe that happened. I was like, oh my gosh. I guess America is still more conservative than I thought about this. If California just voted down gay marriage. But guess who supported gay marriage in that ballot initiative? Larry Elder. Larry Elder is very libertarian about a lot of different things. And he believes, like, who you marry, that's between you and you. And the government shouldn't necessarily have a hold on that. He didn't agree with, like, how it happened and went up to the Supreme Court. But he believes that two people should be able to make a decision, and that should be between, and there's other conservatives who feel libertarian on the issue, like, it matters, like, who you go to your church and you get, like, the piece of paper and you have your ceremonies, and that between you and God, that's important, you, your spouse, and God. But the government, no, not really. So that's not true about him being anti-LGBT. Like, why would you say that? Because he doesn't believe that boys should play with girls? Because they have a biological advantage? Well, that's just reality. But you know what he also said? And this was controversial for conservatives because he was asked about this in an interview. And they said, and the interviewer asking the question had a family member who was trans, so they made it personal. And like, would they be able to go to the bathroom of they're choosing. And so he said if a person had been transitioning for a long time or something like that, then basically he didn't see like an issue with it, which some people had an issue with. And I personally believe that you should go whatever equipment God gave you to go to whatever bathroom that is. But there once upon a time, like pre-Obama, we did not talk about bathrooms and stuff. That is like a new phenomenon, being obsessed with that. And there was it was in North Carolina in Charlotte. There was a city ordinance because Obama and like his Justice Department just made it like a thing. And so the LGBT groups and stuff were pretty emboldened. So there was like an ordinance that said like you have to allow people to go wherever they want to. And then it got up to like bigger government and they're like, no, you can't do that. And then like people started protesting and all this kind of other stuff. It became a huge national conversation. And so Trump was like kind of newish in the ring, was early like in the primaries, and he said some things on the issue that were just kind of like raising an eyebrow. Like he was trying to feel out how people felt about it, it seemed like. One night he was on Hannity, and Hannity was just kind of like feeding him the answers. And that was like the last time I watched Hannity for a while, because I'm like, I didn't like that personally. But Trump ultimately, he was like, he let Caitlyn Jenner go use the women's bathroom at Trump Tower. So even if you don't like Larry Elder's answer for that, if that's the reason why you're not going to vote for him, did you vote for Trump? So if I could interpret his opinion, I would assume his opinion on the matter is if you've been living your life that way and you could get away with it without anyone being none the wiser, then that's probably for the best, is what I would assume his opinion really is. But bathrooms, that's not something, that's like a modern phenomenon. I like with talking about it being so engrossed within it. And that really started with the Obama administration, their DOJ, and then the Charlotte thing like really blew it up. It made it a really big national conversation. I know that seems forever ago now. That seems really, really forever ago now, but that is the case. But to say that he's anti-LGBT, that's someone who's pretty libertarian on issues. That's pretty crazy. And that's just what Democrats do. They say that everybody has hateful, bigoted positions without actually diving in to know the details. So just to label him as anti-LGBT, someone who really believes that adults should be able to make decisions about their lives, that's crazy and so dishonest. Regardless of however he personally feels, if he feels that as he would govern is that you get to decide how to run your life, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Number 7, she said he doesn't care about police brutality, and the specific example is because he's pro like them using the chokehold. Police using a chokehold. That's a discussion I think between like police to be able to say what is actually whatever is the best way to do something that is non-lethal force. He usually goes on TV, Fox or whatever, to talk about case by case with resisting and so on. They probably could use other examples to try to push it their point. That's not really a good one. But someone else who replied to her video made the case like, if I believe that police officers should be able to protect themselves with lethal force when it is justified, would that mean that I'm pro police brutality? No, it wouldn't mean that. And there's been in cases where Larry Elder's been like, no, they acted inappropriately. But you just have to look at the facts of each sort of situation. So that wasn't a good one either. That he's against undocumented immigration or illegal immigration. Why are you for it? Is my question to this young lady. And Democrats, why are you for it? We have borders, we have laws, we have other people who are trying to get in the country. I told a story earlier about a young man in the Philippines who followed us with a satellite phone to make sure that we were safe. And I'm thankful to him. Nothing popped off, but I'm thankful that he was there. But you know what? They'll have civilian volunteers because people want to come to America, and they grease the wheel like that to try to be able to help them get in line. And the fact that people just hop over the border, it's not cool. Especially since people act like they're so into the COVID, they're so concerned, but you don't know people are vaccinated or have it or carrying it and so on. And then there's crime, people, crime. It's a crime to cross the border, first of all. So many heinous acts are committed against these people who are trafficked across the border. And then drugs come through. I've seen so much reporting and stuff, fentanyl busts that they've had, just incredible. So why wouldn't you be for? A lot of people are for pro-immigration. They just want it to be legal. Like people would say Trump hates immigrants. Are you stupid? Look at his wife. Look at his wife. Of course he doesn't hate immigrants, but there's a difference between immigration and illegal immigration. So another silly thing, that he's a climate change denier. She said he's a climate change denier because they said a lot of it is alarmism. When AOC gets up and says that we have 12 years to live, that's not alarmism? That's not alarmism? There's a lot of people out here who are alarmed. And we're alarmed at how alarmed that you are. And she specifically mentioned that he said no one knows the exact percentage of our contribution to global warming. Is there someone with that answer? Because that's pretty disputed, right? I remember Bill Nye the Science Guy, who's actually not a science guy, was on Tucker Carlson, and they were talking about climate change and stuff, and they try to use the talking point that 99 or 94%, maybe it's 99% of scientists agree about global warming, and that number isn't quite true at all anyway with the consensus. But they don't have a consensus about how much humans can actually contribute to it. So that's still debated. And it's still a debate about how much we contribute to it versus how much can we actually solve, and whether dumb regulations that the government, which isn't great at doing things, by the way, if they impose carbon taxes and stuff, are those the things that are going to solve climate change? Or is there going to be a solution in the private sector? So maybe we need to take our gloves off with some of these people and let them innovate and try to save the world. So he's definitely not a denier, especially in the way that she named it. Does she know the exact percentage of how humans are contributing and how much it's just U.S. or what the U.S. can do versus India or something? And is there something that we can do to try to make up the gap when other countries have higher carbon emissions and won't stop? So just because you disagree with policy and with it doesn't mean that he's a denier of it. And so the last thing that she mentioned was that he was against mask and vaccine mandates. He doesn't want to impose overbearing policies. And I'm going to play another clip from that interview. I'm running out a bit of time, but I'm going to play this first clip.
Right now, we see the Delta variant sort of exploding in this state. If things get worse, is there any scenario where you would change your current idea that we need no mask mandates and no vaccine mandates?
Well, the Delta variant seems to be afflicting mostly people who have not been vaccinated. I have been vaccinated. I'm not anti-vax because of my age, because of other comorbidities. My doctor strongly recommended that I be vaccinated, and I was. And it strikes me that the people who are being affected mostly by the Delta variant are people who've not been vaccinated. Furthermore, the symptoms that people are having are far less severe than they used to be. The hospitalizations are up, but the deaths aren't really that high. And remember, the whole reason that we shut down the state was to buy time for vaccines and to buy time for treatments and to make sure that we did not have a rush on our healthcare system. There wouldn't be a rush on ventilators and on ICUs. And it seems to me so far our healthcare system is being able to handle this. So virtually everybody in California who wants to be vaccinated has been vaccinated. Poor people can get the vaccination for free if they want to. And a lot of people have made the decision for various reasons not to be vaccinated. Some people have already had the coronavirus, so they have antibodies. Some people have a healthy distrust of government. And I want to remind you that it was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris who both said that if Donald Trump told them to take the vaccine, they wouldn't. So a lot of people apparently have taken their advice. I think we still live in America. We still have freedom. And Thomas Jefferson warned about trading freedom for public safety. And I think he was right.
Yeah, so there's only so much like you want to trade your liberty for the feeling of safety, really. But how much power do you want to give the government? Especially knowing that a lot of people who impose these lockdowns and mandates and stuff aren't following their own rules. They're not following their own rules. They don't have that sort of fear. Or maybe even if they still thought it was serious, they still calculate in their minds and know and allow themselves to make a reasonable risk assessment. But they don't think you should be able to do that. So again, you can have someone like Gavin Newsom who believes in all these overbearing, impositions on people versus like Larry Elder who says, I believe you're adults and you guys can make your own decision. He went on to like tell a story in that interview about how he was at a restaurant and the boss doesn't, he allows whoever wears a mask, wants to wear a mask, can wear a mask. And so his server, she's a young college student, and so he asked he asked her about it, and she's like, well, our boss allows us to do whatever we want. And he asked like, are you vaccinated? And she said no. And he's like, well, do you mind me asking? And she's like, you can ask, but I don't have to tell you anything. And so he's just kind of like, that's liberty. That's fine enough. That's fine enough, because this is America where we're supposed to be free. So and a lot of people who are in charge, did try to undermine the vaccine. They didn't say if you injected, you're going to die. That's not what Biden or Kamala said, but they played games. They played games to undermine public trust of Trump because it was political. It was political. They're the ones who politicized it. So you can make whatever decisions that you want to make, but his thing is that the vaccine is available. He took it himself, and everyone has that opportunity to take it. And you assume whatever risks now. That's on you. So why would he risk destroying more businesses because you don't want to take the vaccine when it's available to everyone? Doesn't make any sense. So they don't have a lot for Larry Elder. It's very easy they have their little talking points, but obviously you can break them down and get rid of them very fast, especially like with the mandates and other stuff like that. And the whole like women thing that she brought up was so dumb, so very dumb. But that's where they're at. And I think right now it's looking very good for Larry Elder. He just needs to keep pressing on. I think Republicans really should come together on one candidate. I know there's other ones in the race. There's a lot of people in the race actually, but Larry Elder is the one who they're going hard after. And I'm so glad he jumped in the race, because otherwise we'd be talking about Caitlyn Jenner a lot. And I'm glad it's him. And I do like Larry Elder. I don't agree with him on everything. I'm definitely more conservative than he is conservative, and he's definitely more libertarian than I am. But that's okay. But we're still on the right, and I believe he'll be a good governor, a fair governor. And some people think he'll be useless because obviously there's a lot of Democrats who run the state, but there's still other things that he can do to make a difference. Even if he has to stop things from happening, that would still be good. Because y'all got some crazy stuff going on in California. Last thing I want to talk about before I go, and I do have to get going very soon, is this really quickly. I want to talk about Kevin Smith. He did is it Jay and Silent Bob and Clerks? Is that his thing? But he's a comic book. He does comic book men, and people just kind of look up to him as this big pop culture icon. But people were really mad at him because he lied about He-Man. And basically they used his name to like, when it was like the Tila show, and he pretty much lied to viewers and then tried to come back and say he didn't lie, and basically mocks all these people who are upset about the direction they decided to go. So people are kind of seeing Kevin Smith a little bit more plainly. But he put this on Instagram. I think this was last week. And he said, today I hiked for the first time in a month. A maskless passerby told me 2 masks is overkill. I replied, Batman wears a mask. The maskless guy looked at me like I was an idiot. In moments like this, instead of arguing, I like to counter unsolicited opinion with unsolicited fact. Well, here's an unsolicited fact, Kevin Smith. Batman's mask covers everything but his mouth. I had tweeted that under where I saw because someone shared it on Twitter. And then someone else pointed out, no, his mouth and nostrils are also uncovered. Batman wears a cape and a cowl, and I guess technically you can call it a mask that covers his, like face area and stuff, but his mouth is uncovered, his nose is uncovered, his eyes are uncovered. He could die. If anyone's catching COVID, especially since he's a human, it's going to be Batman. It's going to be Batman. So Kevin Smith, some people are just like, what the heck is happening with this dude? And the two masks is overkill. You got the N90. That looks like that's the N95 probably under his cloth mask, which cloth masks don't really do much. Actually, they're useless. And Biden's team has gone on TV and said that. I don't know if that was news they weren't supposed to say, but the cat was out of the bag. And he's hiking. This dude is hiking. He's got his N95 and a mask. But he's living. He's survived, I suppose, enough to post the picture. But invoking Batman and being such an expert and thinking that's a dunk. Thinking he could have named so many other superheroes. He could have named the Red Hood. Red Hood wears a mask because he wears a helmet and stuff. He could have named someone else. Someone else. But he could have been like, Sub-Zero wears a mask. Scorpion wears a mask or something. Just about any superhero, video game character, just anybody who wears a mask. But he names Batman, who technically, I guess, he wears his cape and his cowl. It covers his face and stuff, but it does not cover his mouth. Can you imagine going to a grocery store and you have to wear a mask, and then you just put on a Batman mask and just go around breathing and Kevin Smith approved of this and just go about your way. So silly comic book man. I don't know what has happened to Kevin Smith, but that is where I'm going to draw a close today. Thank you guys for watching. Please go to blacktnews.com. If you do like the show, you do enjoy the show, please consider leaving a donation. Please check out the store. Got some great stuff on the store that you guys can get there, so please consider buying something for you, consider buying something for your friends and your family, and it helps support Black Teen News. And if you like what I do, want to see it keep going, make sure that you just support, help a sister out. So thank you guys very much. Please check out the website. If you want to leave a donation, you can do that on the website. And please share different articles that I've written. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and make sure that you keep doing that and recommending the show. Thank you to everyone who wants to be part of the conversation. I really appreciate it. God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.